Chapter 1: The Divinity and Curse of Numbers. Congratulations! In this game called Earth, you have officially beaten the final boss. Your net worth is now $1 trillion. This is a figure so vast, it begins to warp the laws of physics. Let's do some quick math to visualize your existence. Even if you were a world-class spendthrift, burning through $100 million every single day, buying yachts, masterpieces, and sports teams without pause, it would still take you 27 years to run out of cash. But the reality is, you will never go broke. Once money reaches the trillion-dollar threshold, it ceases to be currency. It transforms into an impersonal force of proliferation. Even if you parked this fortune in the most conservative global trust with a modest 5% annual return, you would wake up every morning to find an additional $136 million in your account. Every breath you take is worth $1,500. If you were walking across your gold-threaded carpet and accidentally dropped a $100 bill, do not bend over to pick it up. The single second it takes to reach for it is worth more than 15 of those bills combined. This growth no longer depends on your decisions or your labor. It acts like gravity. As long as the Earth keeps spinning, your wealth will automatically devour compound interest and clone itself indefinitely. The first side effect of this divinity is alienation. You will notice your perception of the world begins to glitch. You no longer care how much a gallon of gas costs or about the economic crisis of a developing nation. To you, those are merely fluctuations at the 5th decimal point. You have lost the most fundamental survival pressure of a biological organism, a pressure that, ironically, was once the very key to defining human happiness. Chapter 2: The Vacuum Territory. The Death of Randomness. You spent $2 billion to buy the entire Bugatti company. You spent another $500 million to carve a modern fortress into the side of a mountain. You think you're finally free? No. You have just committed the premeditated murder of your own randomness. When you possess $1 trillion, your life no longer belongs to you. It belongs to your insurance companies, your board of directors, and your massive retinue of retainers. Do you remember what it felt like to have a whim? Like on a rainy night, suddenly wanting a bowl of ramen from that rundown but delicious shop on the corner? For the current you, that is classified as a Level 1 security incident. Your chief security officer will immediately appear before you with a grim expression. To get you that bowl of ramen, he needs to dispatch an advance team to clear the entire block within 10 minutes, investigate the ramen shop owner's background, records, and political leanings over the last 30 years, test the kitchen's water source and all ingredients for heavy metal residues, deployed 2 sniper teams on the opposite building to prevent any random malice. By the time you finally step into the shop, flanked by a fleet of armored SUVs, and watch the trembling, sweating chef serve a bowl of ramen that has already been poked and prodded by a security inspector, you will realize that the spark of life has vanished. Money gave you the power to buy any place on Earth, but it stripped you of the right to simply be there. You now live in the most luxurious, sophisticated, and airtight vacuum sphere in human history. You can only observe the world through bulletproof glass, tactical vests, and 24-hour surveillance. To you, the world has become a silent film broadcast 24/7. You are the only audience member, yet you can never truly join the cast. Chapter 3: The Functionalization of Humanity. On this trillion-dollar island, the air is too thin to breathe. You will experience a very specific kind of loneliness. You are no longer surrounded by people, but by functions. Your butler before you? His function is seamless comfort. Your bodyguard beside you? His function is an absolute physical barrier. Your private doctors, lawyers, asset managers? Every smile they flash you is backed by a $1 million annual contract. You begin to fall into a pathological logic. If I stopped paying his salary, would he still be smiling at me? The answer is obvious, and it makes you feel sick. Even worse is your social circle. You invite your best friend from college to vacation on your private island. You crave for him to grab your beer like he did 20 years ago, mock your failed first love, or get into a heated argument over a political topic. But he doesn't. He sits on the deck of your $30 million yacht, looking restless and uneasy. He carefully observes your every expression, heaps praise on luxury items he doesn't understand, and nods in worshipful agreement to every trivial thing you say. He is no longer your best friend. He has become a potential investment petitioner. His mind is on his unpaid mortgage and his children's expensive private school tuition. When he looks at you, there is no longer a gaze of equal friendship, only the trembling awe reserved for an idol. $1 trillion is like a high-energy particle beam. Any normal human who gets too close will be instantly ionized, losing their independent personality and collapsing into a fixed state of sycophancy or submission. Chapter 4. The Legal Hunting Ground and the Public Enemy Effect. With $1 trillion net worth, you have become the most succulent prey on the planet. You are no longer a citizen equal before the law. You are a walking jackpot. You face over 500 lawsuits a year. A passerby trips on the public road outside your estate. He sues you, claiming the shadow of your wall caused the pavement to freeze. A stranger who shook your hand 15 years ago sues you, claiming you made a verbal financial commitment to her. Even the charities you support will secretly consult lawyers because your donation for the year didn't meet their expectations. Your chief legal officer will give you a cold term for this: defensive expenditure. He will advise you to spend $10 million to settle a baseless, nonsensical lawsuit. His reasoning? If it goes to court, the media exposure will cause your company's stock to fluctuate by 0.1%, which represents $10 billion in evaporated market value. So, you learn to use checks to silence malice. But this is like bleeding into the open ocean to heal a wound. It only attracts more sharks. You begin to realize that the entire legal and media system, to some extent, condones this predatory behavior because you are too wealthy, so wealthy that people feel stealing or scamming a few million from you isn't a crime, but rather a form of retribution for their own mediocre lives. You stand before the 7 massive screens in your office, watching court summonses from around the globe fly in like snowflakes. You don't even know the people suing you, but they all want to ruin your day to make their lives. This isn't just litigation. It is a class-based safari. You are the deepest pocket on Earth, and everyone is studying how to cut it open. Chapter 5. The Collapse of Kinship. How the Checkbook Dilutes Bloodlines. Money doesn't just change family ties, it performs an atomic restructuring of them. When you had $1 million, you were the pride of the family. When you had 10 million, you were the pillar. But now that you have $1 trillion, you have become their god. And a god has no kin. You look at your own brother, who once spent sleepless nights worrying about car repair bills, and you decide to lift him up. With a wave of your hand, you gift him a mansion larger than your entire childhood neighborhood and a $100 million trust fund. You think you are saving him, but in reality, you are performing an execution. From that second on, the blood bond in his eyes vanishes, replaced by a supply and demand relationship. At the New Year's Eve dinner table, the silence freezes like ice inside glasses of expensive Chateau Lafite. He no longer dares to snatch a chicken wing from your plate like he did as a kid, nor does he dare to clap you on the shoulder to reminisce. Every action he takes and every word he speaks is filtered through a subconscious, precise calculation. If I say the wrong thing, will it affect my trust fund allocation next year? When this balance is shattered, a more twisted psychology is born: resentment. He begins to think bitterly in the dead of night. Since you have $1 trillion, why did you only give me $100 million? That is merely 1/10,000th of your net worth. The money you spent buying an airline could have made him a billionaire 1,000 times over. Your very existence becomes a colossal mockery of his mediocrity. With every luxury he enjoys through your charity, his self-esteem shrivels. Ultimately, your family splits into two camps. One becomes a group of fawning, soulless parasites. The other whispers in the dark, gritting their teeth and cursing your longevity. You wanted to buy back the warmth of the past, only to find that you've personally transformed a rowdy family once squeezed into a tiny kitchen into a cold, clinical board of directors. Chapter 6. Stagnant Time, a life without waiting. One of the core sources of human happiness is called delayed gratification. Saving for 3 months to buy a long-coveted camera, waiting for half an hour in the snow for someone you love, enduring a long struggle to achieve a goal. These waits and hardships are the markers that anchor the meaning of life. But for you, the owner of $1 trillion, time has collapsed. Want to see the world's rarest aurora borealis? A private jet is on the runway within 3 hours. The best observation point will be purchased and cleared just for you. Want to meet the biggest star on the planet? You don't need to wave a glow stick at a concert. They will appear at a private party in your living room, perhaps even tailoring their set list to your personal taste. At this altitude, everything you desire appears before you the moment you think of it, as a finished product. Because you have lost the process of pursuit, you have lost the joy of attainment. In your life, there are no more seasons, only an eternal, saturated, suffocating, instant availability. When everything can be achieved in a heartbeat, life loses its rhythm. You find yourself sinking into a dangerous sense of nihilism. If the result is always within reach, what was the point of the process? You are no longer curious about anything. You are no longer excited by surprises. Sitting in a $200 million jet, looking at the clouds outside the window, you find yourself missing that late night years ago when you sat up refreshing a webpage just to catch a single discounted flight ticket. Back then, you lived in flowing time. Now you are sealed inside an amber made of solidified gold. Chapter 7. Power and the Demiurge Delusion, the burden of moving nations. When you become wealthy to a certain degree, you are no longer a businessman. You become a variable in geopolitics. A single investment decision of yours can determine whether a nation of hundreds of thousands flourishes or falls into bankruptcy. Your satellite network covers the globe. The algorithms you control determine what news hundreds of millions of people see today. This power births a terrifying hallucination, the Demiurge delusion. You begin to feel that since you can manipulate markets, public opinion, and even the elections of small regimes through money, you must be able to manipulate human destiny itself. You develop a fanatical sense of mission, wanting to use your $1 trillion empire to correct the world. But soon, reality deals you a heavy blow. Half of the $10 billion you donate for disaster relief vanishes within layers of corrupt institutions. The energy revolution you tried to spearhead touches the interests of countless entrenched groups who then unite to demonize you through the media. You have enough power to destroy the world, but not the authority to fix it. You find that even though you are wealthier than nations, you are still trapped by the complexities of human nature and social rules. The tension between being all-powerful and utterly helpless makes you increasingly paranoid. You begin to build an order within your own estate that is completely isolated from the secular world, where you are the sole judge, the only God, and the definer of truth. Money has detached you from the masses, and ultimately, it has detached you from reality. Chapter 8. The Midnight Truth, the final audit on the lawn. At the end of the story, we return to that midnight hour at 3 a.m. You step down from your custom-made smart bed that senses your every movement. You walk through a 50-meter corridor lined with masterpieces and push open the heavy doors to the terrace. The entire $500 million estate looks solemn and desolate under the moonlight. You stand in the center of the perfectly manicured lawn, feeling the cool morning dew beneath your bare feet. Beyond the distant walls, infrared cameras rotate tirelessly in the dark, and guards in bulletproof outposts watch you through screens. You look up at the stars. Those lights traveled tens of thousands of light years just to reach your pupils. They don't care if your account has a 0 or 13 zeros. You suddenly realize that on a cosmic scale, your $1 trillion and the coins in a beggar's bowl are no different. This wall of money you painstakingly built will eventually turn to dust in the winds of time. These private jets, islands, and armies, you don't really own them, you are merely looking after them for a short while. When you are gone 100 years from now, your name will be a footnote in a history book, and those numbers will be swiftly dismantled, carved up, and reorganized. In this silent midnight, you finally hear the truest voice, one that has been muffled by the noise of $1 trillion for too long. It is the craving for real connection, the voice of a fragile, lonely, aging life. You miss a handshake that carries no ulterior motive. You miss an afternoon stroll without a security detail. You miss that girl who, even when you had nothing, was willing to sit on a curb and share half a bun with you. You go back inside and look in the mirror at the man worshipped by the world, yet who doesn't have a single friend he can talk to. $1 trillion has finally fulfilled its mission. It has removed every obstacle, every hardship, and every rival from your life, leaving you entirely alone on a wasteland called perfection. You turn off the screen. A new day is about to begin. In the few hours you were asleep, your assets automatically increased by another $40 million. You don't even know if this is the ultimate reward or an extreme, never-ending curse.